Cool. Well, first of all, thanks for the videos you make of your work and that you put on YouTube. They're enjoyable and they're well produced. I like the music, I like the content, and I think you're on the right path. How can I help?
Yeah, thanks. About the intro music, my 11-year-old nephew is teaching me how to put videos together. So it's a bit of a learning experience for me. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I'll just share with you, this is week 3 for me in this incubation engineering group. And I'll just share what I'm doing so far. And I'll share the direction, and then I'll just leave it open for input. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So glad you've seen the videos. First week was just defining direction. And I think the key point from week 1 was to focus on making it ridiculously simple to configure. So the auth and the config of the pipeline should be dead simple.
Awesome.
And the second idea was that we could potentially land this product in .com because there's already a bit of a demand and an issue for non-Kubernetes review applications. So instead of claiming production from day 1, let's just land it as a review app first, and then get some people testing it, and then it can be production soon.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Why do you say .com? Because it would be behind a feature flag?
It would be behind a feature flag, and .com because I want some users. I need people to test it out for me.
And then when we're certain and the feature flag is permanently on .com, then we can ship it in self-managed. That's your point?
Correct. It can also, like, it can always be shipped in self-managed and shared with, let's say, if I can identify specific accounts and customers who want this enabled, I'm more than happy to, have it enabled for them as soon as possible.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just said .com because I felt that was the easiest way for me to get users.
I think it's really smart. I think we have this long-term vision that it works with all the cloud providers and that works for all your production apps. But you're saying the sweet spot right now is review apps and Google Cloud because they have the OAuth integration. And I think that's spot on, both of them. So I think that's great.
Yeah, thanks. That is a good segue for week 2, where I explored what's available for AWS authentication and GCP authentication. AWS, we had looked at it. I don't know if you remember, we had looked at it briefly a few months ago.
I remember. It's always been like super hard.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hack wherein we kind of abuse CloudFormation templates to generate keys for us, and then that template is responsible for posting it back, and the user experience is messy around that as well. But for Google, it's straightforward. They have Auth2, they have the required scopes. So they have the Cloud Manager scope and they have the Cloud Resource Manager APIs. So you can just use everything they provide and they offer. And if anybody has not seen the video, I can do a quick demo of that. Let me just get it up and running.
You don't have to optimize these meetings for the shadows. Like they're my meetings. The reason I can have shadows in the call. Oh, sorry, we have a bigger audience. Sorry, I didn't know DZ and Alpa were there. Yeah, go ahead, Sri.
Okay.
I watched the video just in case. So.
All right, super. So let me actually show you. I've got a merge request open right now. And what this merge request does is it introduces, if you navigate to a GitLab project, it introduces a page under infrastructure. So along with Terraform, you see Google Cloud. And with Google Cloud, you will see, assuming you have these things set up, you will see existing deployment credentials and deployment targets. Now, the demo that I'm going to show you, it's not fully built in. It's just a draft demo right now. But assume that you are the user and you're setting up the deployment credentials for the first time, and you click this button. Okay, now I'm going to jump to my next tab. But just imagine that the demo happens in the previous tab that I showed you. You would go through the Google OAuth process, which means that a standard Google login page, I'm already logged in with my GitLab account. So I select that, and Google says, hey, do you want to grant this GitLab web application permission to manage your cloud resources? I allow it. And then it asks me to link or select a Google Cloud project. And I'm basically linking my GitLab project to a Google Cloud project at this stage. So I select that as well, and it generates these service account keys. I'm going to jump to my console on Google Cloud because I'm sharing this on plain text. I'm going to jump to my console and just show you that this is the GitLab generated deployment credential. This is all we need to run a pipeline that actually deploys to Google Cloud. Since I've shared it on plain text, I'm going to delete it right away. But just the point here is that this is the end result. This is the deployment key. And this is now available to this application, the GitLab application, to store as a CI/CD variable. This would mean that you would end up seeing, if you go to settings CI/CD, or if you look at the service account section over here, you will see the service account key being stored. And one step that is missing in this mock demo so far is to associate that service account key with a particular environment. So you could, in theory, generate a key for different environments. And once that is done, you can then, you probably have pipelines. We can talk about how you get those pipelines, but you have everything in place for the pipeline to execute. So that is the short demo. And that is also an update of what I've been doing this week. I've got this merge request out to include this Google Cloud page. It's behind a feature flag, so it's not going to be turned on for a while, but it's there. And this opens the way for actually implementing Google OAuth in the Rails web application. That's it for what I've done so far in the past 2.5, 3 weeks. We can talk about it. We can capture feedback, or I can just, if you look at the document right now for the agenda, I just kind of jotted down some notes in faded out gray, because the less dark the color is, the more uncertain that part is. So just for me to indicate that it's not a concrete plan, but the idea is to have something dead simple. So I was speaking with DZ on Slack a couple of days ago. He asked me, okay, authentication is done. What's next? Right. And many options. I have some pipelines available for Google products like Cloud Run or App Engine, and I can just use them. Or we could end up creating what we did for AWS for GCP as well, wherein we spin up resources, we maintain the infrastructure. We could go in both those directions. I believe if I want to, and this is purely a guess, but I believe that if I want to get more buy-in from GCP, I want to use as much of their managed services as possible. So maybe my first few pipelines would be Cloud Run, Cloud Functions, or App Engine, or things of that nature. So I don't want to maintain my own infrastructure. We just use the services they have. That's roughly the direction. Once I have a basic pipeline running, it would be more of an outreach. That's when I would reach out for existing customers, speak to alliances, speak to GCP, and try to build it from there.
Can you help me a bit? Like, I thought in your videos, I saw something like set up the review app, but when you demoed it now, it was more under kind of operations and things like that, where people never look. How should I?
Good point. So it is under infrastructure right now, and I've tentatively put it there, but I think that's probably where it belongs, either under infrastructure or deployments. So I was debating with myself, where should it go amongst those two sections? Just reference what we're talking about. Give me a second, my Zoom is acting funny. Okay, so we're talking about this page, the Google Cloud page, which now is being prototyped under infrastructure. It could potentially go to deployments as well.
There's a, if you look in the CEO channel, you see that Tauri on my request is researching, consolidating those into one because it's our left menu is getting a bit too big. But yeah. So don't worry too much about that. That makes sense to me. And then, but how would I know to like So if this is empty and I say add service account, I need to know that I should name it review/star or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we can help you with that. But like what my absolute goal, which I haven't shared with anybody yet, is if you go into the new project page, my ideal user experience would be that I see a GCP button over here. I select that, which takes me to a standard project creation process, but then also lets me select which service I want to use. So I want to use Cloud Functions. I select that as well. And create project would then take me through that authentication process as well. And then when I come to the new project view, I've got everything set up by default. That would be ideal for me.
Already have project templates.
Yeah.
So why would we need another thing?
Good question. I believe I thought about that as well. So when I have to,
so it should be create from template here and then say GCP.
Yes, but if I'm trying to convince, if I'm trying to convince GCP to invest in this project, then for self-managed instances where certain flags are turned on, I would rather. It's basically trying to make it more attractive for them by just because.
But I don't think it's in the interest of the GitLab users. So I think it would be another template. That's how I would do it.
Fair enough. Then potentially a new tab over here in the templates page, and then that particular service that you want to use would be listed.
Yeah, you can maybe at some point we can rename built-in to programming language or language, and then another tab for service providers, but that wouldn't be the first step. The first step would just make a new built-in template. Yeah,
fair enough. But okay, this is like way ahead. I've not refined my thought around that yet. So let's just go back. It's going to live inside infrastructure Google Cloud. And then for an existing project, if I want to turn on review applications, how do I do that right now? The only way for me to do that is to create a pipeline and select the Auto DevOps template, or go into settings, CI/CD, and turn on Auto DevOps from here. So potentially there could be something over here as well, wherein I select Auto DevOps and then I select use Google Cloud instead of Kubernetes.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Give people using Auto DevOps.
Yeah.
An alternative.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, as you can see, I've got a lot of different ideas of how to get Google. So for me, like if you ask me what is the success criteria of this project, usage is of course one thing, but I would definitely consider it successful if somebody from GCP, if people from GCP start contributing back here. So if they can identify, use cases or services that they would like to integrate with this effort, that would be really great.
Yeah, I think in that, try to have it in the interface in the most natural way, but then focus on marketing it. So writing about it, blogging about it, showing examples, making people successful. I think that's going to make the difference in the beginning. Very small thing, but after you set up the Google thing, you get to a screen where they kind of generated the keys and the 2 pieces of JSON, but there wasn't really a clear instruction. You went back to your interface and refreshed something, but like, how does the user at that point know, like, oh, I did the right thing, I should go back? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, the way it should work is, so this is what you refer to, right?
Yeah, exactly here.
So at this point, when you see the key generated, you would actually be taken back to the infrastructure Google Cloud page. So that
would happen automatically in the future. Great.
And you should see it here. You should see the new entry.
Yeah, I didn't know you'd automatically be taken back. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice part of OAuth. You can actually control the landing points of the service. Actually, you would be back. So if I revoke this authorization and I grant permission again, the way the OAuth is set up, the minute I authorize authorize the application, this interface is already in our, so we can control this interface over here. So
great. So this is
that would be
awesome.
Yeah, so that would be a form where you select a GCP project. Potentially, you could create a new GCP project and link it with your with your main project as well. And so basically, this whole interface is in our within the scope of our application, and that would be over here. So you would see the new key being created.
And our pitch to users is review apps without the complexity of Kubernetes on the GCP free tier.
Correct. Well, we'll see if it is free tier or not. I've not gotten there yet.
I think that's essential. So whatever we use, like don't use something fancy if it's not in the free tier.
Yeah, I need to see how generous GCP is going to be with that. I'm not sure of the pricing yet. So
I think they're really cool about their free tier. There's a lot included, and they're limited based on money. And so instead of Amazon, where certain things are in it or not, they choose something else, which I think for our use case is great.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a good point. I will make a note for myself to investigate pricing. But the thing is, this service account authentication integration will help regardless of whether it's a review app or not. If you are a GitLab user and a GCP user, it's going to help you.
Yeah, so I love it. I just want to make sure, like, we have I'm envisioning, like, what's the title of the blog post that people are going to send to each other?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to make a note for this pricing. And I think, to be honest, like the way I see this, the original video that you made, Sid, back in the day, where you talk about startups that use Heroku to get started, and then they find it difficult to scale. I think those startups, if you're a startup in an incubator, your GCP gives you a lot of resources to get started as well, right? So could this be something where you become a GitLab user and you're a GCP user and you're a startup and you can absolutely deploy your application to GCP literally by just pressing next, okay, done. So like really make it very simple for that.
Yep. Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah.
And you're with this better integration to GCP, you're taking a great step towards it.
Yeah. So in terms of like blog post or outreach on who could our first users be, could it be this startup ecosystem where GCP offers?
I wouldn't take on Heroku. Like we tried that. That wasn't, we're not there yet. But I think like, hey, great way to, if you're using GitLab and not using review apps yet, we got the easiest, cheapest way to do that right now. That will be my angle.
Yeah. Cool. So what's next for me? I need to get this merge request merged. I think that's going to happen sometime next week. After that would be the OAuth 2 implementation and the there's a few things. Since we're doing this for .com, I need to figure out the absolute correct way to store the secrets, not just for the end customer, but for .com itself. So I need to reach out to the right people for that. Also, just to keep in mind, when a customer grants us permission to manage their cloud resources, it's a big responsibility. So, and just like we don't need those permissions throughout the cycle, we just needed to create those service account keys. So hopefully the cycle itself would end with revoking of those rights after the keys have been created. So we need to have as little permission as possible. But still, for that moment of creation, it is a big responsibility. So I need to reach out to the right people to make sure this is as secure and as well implemented. Our
security team should do a review. And I love the thing where you say, hey, I create that OAuth thing. I create my keys and then I destroy the OAuth credentials. I love that. That's really smart. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But that is it for me in terms of my updates for this call. Any questions, comments? All right, I guess not. So I wish you all a great weekend, Friends and Family Day, and the next video would be in a week's time.